It's Thursday, 4 p.m. Central. I'm Fred McMurray, which means this must be...
Wow.
That doesn't sound like soft rock to me.
No, that's not soft rock at all. That's a little wild and crazy.
Yes. Hey, welcome to another episode of Pillars of Franchising. We got a great show for you today. How are you, Elizabeth?
Good, we do. And you didn't say it, so I will. It's Friday Eve, our favorite day of the week next to Friday.
Yes, hallelujah.
I know. I thought it was Friday all day.
Yeah, you know that holiday we had at the beginning of the week screwed everything up. I don't think anybody really knows what day it is. And then with the weather and...
Yeah, it's been a weird week, but not a weird show, hopefully.
No, note to Fred.
And before we get started, as usual, I want to remind everybody that we have a call-in number. If you have questions for our guests or our host, our number is 323-580-5755. So do not forget to participate and let us know you're out there. So Kristin, what is our word on the street today?
Well, I was reading the other day from our friends at Franchise Times about the big thing with the SBA and no longer doing a directory, a franchise directory, which has everybody kind of curious as to how things are going to go with that, right? So as you know, the SBA posts a directory, and that helps a lot of lenders to know if that should be kind of a fast track company. If they've been around for a while, they kind of take the SBA franchise directory as a stamp of approval. The SBA says that's not really the case. They don't do it as a stamp of approval. But the question is now, how much more work do the lenders have to do? And how is that going to impact borrowers or potential franchisees?
Well, and before you go down that route, explain why it matters. If somebody's new to the franchising industry, why does it matter that they are on the SBA, their directory, their franchise directory? What's the importance of that?
Yeah, so typically the SBA has I'll call it a fast track, the 7A program, which makes lending much easier. It makes it a little faster process. And again, many lenders look at being on that list as being kind of a rite of passage. So typically you don't see brand new franchises on there, people who haven't proven themselves, so to speak. And so for that, now you have a lot of situations where, the franchisor and the potential franchisee are looking to get something open sooner. And now all of a sudden it could take a great deal more time for the banks to actually approve those loans. So as it stands right now, there's a lot of banks that don't do franchise lending at all because they just don't understand it.
Well, we talk about that on the show. Like, a banker is not just a banker, a lender is not just a lender, a lawyer is not just a lawyer when you're dealing with the franchise space. Yeah. So what this list does is lend some credibility that this is in fact a franchise model, that they have a proven system, right?
Right.
So that enables the ones who are experienced franchise lenders to move a little more quickly, right?
Yeah. And so in some ways, if you were an emerging brand, you might actually think this is to your advantage. Because now it's not that you're not on the list, it's that nobody's on the list, right? And it may level the playing field. It's important for everybody to know that the Federal Trade Commission monitors these companies, and they require them to file franchise disclosure documents, which I know Ray will be talking about later on in the show. And so, I don't believe anybody ever sets out to design a brand that's going to fail, but certainly the banks and the potential franchisees are looking for something that shows them that this is indeed a true, legit, and successful model that they can make money at. So it'll be really interesting to see how this progresses. I'm not sure if we'll see some of the banking standards or banking procedures change. I'm sure that we will. But in the meantime, as we've talked about and you mentioned, it's really important that if you're looking to fund a franchise, that you get a hold of a bank that specializes in franchises, and you can find those on the SBA's website as well. And again, don't go to your neighborhood bank, because 99.9% of the time, the neighborhood bank is not a franchising bank.
And so, Kristin, one thing the article talked about was that with smaller, like you're talking about your neighborhood bank, it's more impactful, but with the national lenders, they're going to have an understanding of how to navigate that process. But doesn't that make it even more important that you go to a bank that does franchise lending?
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you go to your neighborhood bank, it's very likely that you could wind up lost in the shuffle. Many times, if they don't understand franchises, they just reject the loan altogether.
Right.
And I'll tell you, we've talked with a few clients that you may remember as well, that the local bank has encouraged them, rather than going through the SBA, rather than going through some more secure type loans, they suggested people leverage their homes for that first loan. And that's not always the right thing. And that's also why we suggest that people get with not only a franchise lawyer, but their CPA, and somebody who's a CPA that understands franchising, because not all CPAs understand franchising either. And there's a big learning curve if you're the first one in a firm that does not know franchising. So definitely want to make sure that you're careful. And if you're not sure where to go, you can certainly check pillarsoffranchising.com, because we have many resources there online for you of people that we've vetted, we've worked with, and chances are they've all been on the air, so you can actually listen to their episode and get some more information and see if it feels like a good fit for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you know specific questions you want to ask immediately, you can always email us at yourdream@pillarsoffranchising.com, and we can get you that information pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
So on with the show, Kristin, we've got a great guest.
We do. I can't wait to talk to her. And there she is. Welcome, Courtney.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited.
Hi, Ray.
Ray's super excited.
Yo, welcome to the show.
Good
So
to be here.
with us today is Courtney Harmon. She's president of the Driveway Company and Softroc, not the music, right, Ray? We were
That's
just
right.
talking that earlier. Not Softroc the music.
That's in reference to my comment right at the beginning of the show.
Yes, exactly. Ray's got a lot of those today. So what we want to just do is introduce you a little bit, Courtney. Obviously, you've been a franchisee for 16 years. Is that right?
Not consecutively. So I was first a franchisee 17 years ago at Akers International, and sold that franchise. And I am currently a franchisee again, going into year 3 with Driveway Company, and year 1 with Softroc.
Awesome.
Wow.
So
But I had been in franchising for 17 years.
So the background in franchising struck me because you went from curves to construction.
Yes.
You've got
And my name's Courtney, and they all start with a C, so it just makes sense, right?
But how did you go from like a wellness brand into construction? Because that's kind of a big jump.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah, it's a question that I'm asked all the time, and the short answer is that my passion, it truly lies with franchising in general, and just being in a space where I can contribute to creating opportunities for other people who share similar experiences to what I was going through when I was first searching to become an entrepreneur and open my own business, and the different challenges and struggles that I faced, and helping others overcome those. But the bigger picture to that is, after my career at Curves, whenever we had gotten bought out and the company moved to California, my husband and I had decided, we're going to open some of our own businesses. And one of the previous CEOs of Curves, who at the time started with one of our other brands that is under our umbrella company, Stellar today, had reached out and asked me if I would just come and do some some contract work with him, some freelance work, some consulting. And I honestly turned him down at first. I said, no, we're too busy. We kind of have all this other stuff going on. And we ended up meeting one day for breakfast, and it just felt right. So I ended up doing some work with them on one of our other larger brands. And about 6 months later, the Driveway Company became a concept that we were looking at. And I was working through Discovery Day content and sitting in trainings, and it took about 90 days where I was just really thinking, like, what am I missing? What is it about this that wouldn't make me want to jump in? And the short answer to that was that I'd promised myself I would never be a franchise owner again, ironically. And then sure enough, here I am today. So I had taken the concept home to my husband and my brother, who is also a business partner of ours, who has several other businesses in the home service and construction industry, and they agreed. And so we at that time just decided to go all in and invested in 2 units. And then about 18 months later, Softroc was another brand that came along through trying to find additional surfaces with Driveway Company. So that's kind of the longer answer to your question.
Awesome. And anybody with kids probably is familiar with Softroc, right?
That's my goal today, not quite yet, but I will tell you, any parent that has Softroc and children are extremely pleased with their investment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, there's nothing worse than going home and taking their shoe off and you've got a bunch of like mulch in their shoe and dirt all over, or they fall on a hard surface and crack their head. I mean, it's just not good. So
yes, with Softroc, we kind of have the saying that it's that custom surfacing that truly does check every box on your list. And so useful can be a comfortable option, useful can be a stylish option, and it can be a playful option.
Awesome. We were talking briefly about, and we'll come back to Stellar Brands as a whole, but before the show, we were talking about how often people will choose to buy the Driveway Company and Softroc because they're so complementary. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So we do have several multi-brand owners that have a Softroc and a Driveway Company. And then we also have independent Driveway Company owners and Softroc owners. And it's really unique to see what matches best for each owner, depending on their needs and their goals and how quickly they're looking to scale their business. So we really try to find the best fit in that space based on, again, the goals and the business plan that each candidate and or owner has long term. But what I love about this concept is that while we are marketing to a different ideal customer for a Driveway Company than we are for Softroc, the resources such as equipment and tools and staffing and labor, all of those things that you need to operate one is nearly identical to operate two. So for many of our owners, it's easier for them to scale their business vertically versus horizontally by investing in resources to bring on additional services, utilizing what they already have, versus investing in more territory or farmland and having to scale outward. So I like to refer to it as, it depends on if you want to go an inch wide and a mile deep, or a mile wide and an inch deep. And we have the versatility to scale both.
I think that's awesome. That's really cool.
I can see where, especially Softroc, I think most schools nowadays, when they have playgrounds, are not putting in sand or concrete, obviously. They're going to put in something that's durable, like something like Softroc. So how does that work? I mean, I'm just curious from a technical standpoint. Is that pretty much
It's definitely
poured in, and is it glued together, or is it loose? Or
yeah, so it's loose. So we have a bucket and we have loose rubber granules that range in size of like 1 millimeter to 4 millimeters. And then we go through a mixing process. So you pick your custom color. It could be a blend of 2 colors or 4 colors. And then you mix it with a binder and you hand trowel it down. And then you close it. So once the surface is completely installed, it's antimicrobial because we do use a closed cell resin. So so bacteria and mold can inhibit it in that environment. And it's soft and impact resistant, like you said. So in the residential space, our most popular application for Softroc is going to be your pool deck, where your kids are running around without shoes on and the concrete's hot, or it's aggregate exposed, so their feet gets really roughed up from that hard surface, or they slip and they fall. So residentially, pool decks are number one. And then obviously there is a wide variety of popular commercial applications, such as playgrounds and tracks and hotel pool decks, apartment complexes, retirement facilities. But it's really unique to see the amount of testing in this industry that can help you identify the safety specs that you can accomplish and achieve for children that are playing on equipment with rubber in the market as a whole.
So is that porous? Is the material?
Look at you. Most people don't even ask me that question. Now you're speaking my language. It is. It is porous, so it will reduce the amount of water penetration by up to 70%. And so what a lot of people don't understand is your substrate is only as good as your subbase, right? So as water continues to pour on top of your concrete over time, it's washing out the dirt in that subbase beneath it, which is where you get the uneven slabs of concrete and trip hazards. And so while it's still porous to where in northern locations, ice will not accumulate on top of it, it'll still soak through. Most of the time, the water will either evaporate or penetrate before it gets all the way to the subbase, washing it out when Softroc is on top of it. So great question.
I just want to, because this is all related, if you don't mind for a second, Kristin.
No.
The Driveway Company now, they're primarily asphalt, is that correct, or concrete?
So we actually do concrete preventative maintenance and repair is our number one service. So crack repair, joint repair, surface cleaning, top coat sealing, again, just a liquid top coat sealer that prevents water penetration completely in that case to preserve concrete. Concrete is the number one most consumed material in the world behind water, believe it or not, which water is concrete's worst enemy. But we are in the business at the Driveway Company to preserve the concrete surfaces that we all stand on and live on in our communities and homes.
Yeah, the only reason I was asking is because I'm trying to get in my head the equipment that's used for each is somewhat similar, and you need a backhoe or whatever. So, and then do you hire subs to do this work, or does each company have their own equipment and do their own work?
Great question. So for what we consider our level one services or our core services, you actually don't need the backhoe or the skid steer or the heavy operating equipment. That's what makes our brand so unique in the construction space, and why I actually can do an entire level one service by myself with my own two hands if I needed to, right?
Wow.
So yeah, we typically have laborers on staff, and we have crews that are about 2 to 3 technicians that do all of those core services day to day. Now we have locations that do larger construction projects that do require the equipment for tear out and re-pour and such. And we do have a labor model to where you can do that through subcontractors or by bringing it in-house. So we do have the means to support you in those avenues, but it's not the foundation for which the initial business model is built upon.
Excellent.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's amazing. I love that you could do it yourself. I mean, we have to go to commercial, but when we come back, I really want to talk about, so these franchisees, people looking to buy both of these businesses, what's their level of necessary knowledge, how involved do they get? So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to pay the bills now, but when we come back, join me talking to Courtney and Ray about what would it be like to own a Driveway Company or Softroc. We'll be right back.
What are the top 3 reasons that you should tune in to Pillars of Franchising? 1, franchise advice from a $1 million mentoring team. And 2, how about interviews from franchise professionals and influencers? And number 3, how about getting some professional tips on buying, growing, and exiting your franchise? Join us on Pillars of Franchising to learn about the secrets of franchising success. You can find us at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, wherever you listen to your podcast.
So that wasn't the commercial I was anticipating, but nonetheless. So Courtney, let's talk about, you mentioned how easy the level 1 maintenance and things are. We talked about how great of a model these two play together and that the same labor, a lot of the same tools or equipment can be used, huge pluses. But let's talk about the level of knowledge somebody needs to invest in a Driveway Company and Softroc. What does that look like?
A great question. And so the only thing that you really need to have is the skill set to be a good learner, right? So the training that we provide will give you all of the information and education that you need to be successful in this business. So you don't have to have an extensive background in concrete. You don't have to have an extensive background in playground safety or rubber surfacing. Everything that we have to offer in the business model is coachable. So as long as you are a coachable individual, you can be successful in this business.
That's awesome. And do you primarily look for people who want to work in the business, on the business, or a little bit of both? What does that look like?
So we have a variety of both. We do have a handful of absentee owners looking for passive income opportunities. We have semi-absentee owners and we have owner operators. And I enjoy working with each one of them. Obviously, when it comes to how much money can I make, the golden question everyone wants to know.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna get out of it what you put in it, right? So we do see fantastic results in terms of return on the owner operator model. Those that are eager to get in there and not necessarily do the work with their own hands, but are willing to work at their business on a regular basis. So, but again, we do have the semi-absentee ownership model, which does work as well. It's just a different level of what you put into it, right? So whether that's, a little bit of sweat equity or capital investment, depending on what your business goals are, we just try and help you find the best model that works for you.
Awesome. And you referenced being coachable. Can you tell me a little bit about the type of support that you offer to new franchisees, both initially, as they become owners, and then a year or two down the road, what kind of support are you able to give them?
Yes, great question, and one that we're really proud of. So when it comes to support, our number one rule is that we're not successful if you're not successful. And so we have a very structured onboarding process that is initiated almost immediately after you decide to become a franchisee and sign that agreement with us and become a part of the family. And that onboarding process can take anywhere from about 6 to 8 weeks. Again, you can work at your own pace through that. And then that kind of guides your path to initial training, which is going to be about a week. And now when I say a week, if you are one of the owners who decides that you want to invest in both a Driveway Company and a Softroc, that would be a 2-week training program and a 6 to 8 week period of onboarding. But it is a week per brand. And that is going to be a combination of classroom training as well as hands-on training. So at initial training, we really focus deep into those core level 1 services while you're here. And then you go home, you get opened, you get started, and then you are transitioned into working with your franchise coach. So we have a franchise coach who will work with you as much as you are willing to work with him in the beginning to get everything ramped up and started. And then once you're in the routine of things, at a minimum, you're going to have a monthly business assessment call with him, where you'll go through your KPIs and your targets and your financial goals and results so that you can continue to work toward what you want to accomplish by the end of year 1.
Awesome. And you also mentioned you're part of the umbrella company Stellar Service Brands. And so if somebody were looking for a Driveway Company or Softroc and you thought, well, they might be better suited for one of these others, can you tell us just who are the other companies that Stellar Service Brands represents?
Yes, so under our umbrella today is Restoration One, which is our largest brand, followed by Blue Frog Plumbing and Drain, and then the Driveway Company and Softroc. And we were acquired by Stellar at the beginning of last year, and it has been such a blessing and an incredible experience. Our partners operate with integrity, and they truly want to allow us as leaders to drive the vision for the business and support us in what we feel is best for the brand and for the franchisees. They've been incredible partners. And being the smallest today of these 4 brands, it's almost like we have this incredible angel investor that we're able to share in with a lot of these shared resources that most brands our size and age just simply don't have access to yet. So it's very rare, and we are very blessed and lucky in that regard, and very, very proud to be a part of the Stellar family.
Well, and that's one thing when I talk to people about buying a franchise, when they're a little sketchy on an emerging brand or a smaller brand, when they're part of an umbrella company, the resources are there. And so if you're out there looking to buy something and you're like, well, I don't know, this sounds really interesting, but it's so small, take a look and find out, are they a part of something bigger? Because, you know, as Ray and I have found out too, being part of Neighborly, there have been some big advantages to that as well. So you always take the good with the bad, right? And so I think that's great.
Yes, absolutely.
How many? Go ahead, Ray. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just thought maybe it's time to jump to the nitty-gritty and ask you, what is the investment that for each company that is required, and how much money do you need to have in the bank as well?
Right. So great question. So independently, the initial investment is equal. So you're going to be looking at all in an investment between around 90 and 170,000. That's our initial investment range, and there's no brick and mortar required. So it's low startup costs, low initial investment, and low overhead once you get up and going initially. So franchise fee on both brands is $59.5. But if you do look at investing in both together, we look at all creative opportunities to try and make it work to your financial budget. So a great option there for you. And then as far as, I'm so sorry, Ray, what was what you can make? Yes, we've already talked about that a little bit in terms of you're going to get out of it what you put in it. And as a franchisee and a corporate leader, I am uniquely limited as to what I can really disclose or represent in terms of financial claims. But regardless of that being the case, I always go to, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And I encourage you to do your research, right? So do as much research as you possibly can to see what your opportunity is. And that's in a variety of ways, starting with validation, reaching out to existing owners in this franchise and seeing what they've been able to achieve in correlation to their financial goals. Second to that, go into other franchises and validate with them and see what the value is from that franchisee's experience in going with a franchisor versus independent. And then third, I like to recommend that you do your research in the industry. So the concrete industry specific to Driveway Company is a $76 billion industry. So the opportunities are huge there. The rubber market industry, it's currently a $60 billion industry and growing astronomically, not just domestically here in the US, but globally. So I highly encourage you to do your research in that as well. And then you can make that assessment in correlation with how much time you're willing to put in and what resources you have available to start your business, what you're going to be able to achieve for yourself.
Wow, Ray, we need to buy a Driveway Company in Softroc.
Softroc, definitely. I think
I
there's
mean,
a huge market for that, I think.
it really is. Courtney, tell us on that note, what markets are you focusing on expanding in right now?
Great question. So for Driveway Company today, we have just over 40 locations. For Softroc, we have about 32. So we have a lot of white space and market share to offer. So it's interesting. I'm very eager to expand in the northern locations. There's such a lack of permanent surface solutions for people who experience harsh winter storms, and Softroc is virtually indestructible. It can be snow plowed in the winter months. So I would love to see us grow and expand into markets up north, but a lot of white space open, and there's just no better time than right now to get in with Softroc especially, and Driveway Company.
Wow. Okay, you heard it here first. All of you in the Midwest and upper north, let's get this thing going.
Yeah.
It sounds awesome. I mean, I never thought I would get excited about driveways and Softroc when we got to
Me
this interview,
neither.
but I'm like, Ray, we got to talk about this. This is a pretty good setup here.
Well, I think neither you or I were excited about cleaning toilets when we started our business either.
You weren't, but I sure like my paycheck, you know, that's the thing. And it's always great, you know, for those of you listening, you know, part of talking to our franchisors here and especially emerging brands is that you get an opportunity to kind of see and hear from the leaders and understand what kind of personalities you're working with. And Courtney, it's been such a great pleasure having you on today. Can you
Thank
tell
you so
us,
much for having me.
yeah, tell our
Yes.
listeners where and how is best to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So I'm based out of Waco, Texas. Our corporate headquarters is based out of Dallas. So we have a big presence here in Texas, but check us out online at www.softroc.com or thedrivewaycompany.com. You'll have all of our contact information there to get a hold of us via email or by phone. And me and my team, you can get a hold of us anytime. I'm happy to speak with anybody. Obviously, I have a lot of passion to share. So anybody who wants to learn more, please reach out and we will be happy to see if Softroc or Driveway Company is a good fit for you.
You definitely exude that passion. I mean,
Oh my God.
everybody can see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
That's right.
That is so true. That is so true. And I think it's great. You know, all of our female listeners out there, this should really empower you. Obviously, Courtney is proof in the pudding that women belong in construction. And
100%.
we're usually the ones that make the decisions on where we spend the money. That is not just my opinion, that's proven. And so
Yes.
a great couple of brands to look into for investment purposes. So thank you so much, Courtney. We'll look forward to hearing from you again soon and where the growth has gone with the Driveway Company and Softroc. We'll be right back after this.
Thank you, Courtney.
Hey,
Thank
franchise
you.
owners. How's your local marketing? Do you feel like you could use some help keeping up with your social media posts and comments and reviews? Do you wonder if you could be doing more to attract local customers? Are you able to identify new move-ins to your local area? At Westvine, we help franchisees like you reach more local customers through digital marketing. With daily monitoring, creative content, and ad placement, and customer data intelligence, we'll get your business in front of the people who want your products or services. We also work with franchisors who need an agency to handle the digital marketing for all of their locations. If you're ready to reach more local customers, give us a call at 805-265-5440 or visit us at westvine.com. That's 805-265-5440 or westvine.com.
Hey, Ray, it's time for another episode of Pillar's Pillar with you, actually. You ready for it?
I am. I'm sitting here in Florida where it's 39 degrees. I think it's warmer at home in Aurora, Illinois.
Is it dry?
Yes. It's
So
dry right now.
Well, out here, it's been, once in a lifetime atmospheric bombs of water and flooding and all other good kind of stuff. And today we start our second round. So we'll see if I
Now,
sleep.
wait a minute. You told me you were praying for rain. You got it. So what are you complaining about?
I'm not complaining. I've gotten to teach a few people how to drive Midwestern style. It's flooding. But that's not what people are here for. All right, so our perspective is always the late stage adult who wants to buy an existing franchise. And as we mentioned before, the FDD is a phenomenal way to put yourself asleep. Is find out what the company is publishing about themselves, correct?
Yes.
So I've read some FDDs, 300-page long ones that put me and an accountant to sleep. But what are the top three things? Because if I'm looking at existing franchises, I may be looking at 10 different brands and I don't want to read that many pages. So what would be the top 3 items you would read to disqualify a franchise?
I think you would get a really good indication about the franchise by looking at their legal dealings. So who are they being sued by and who are they suing is basically what it amounts to. Yeah. From that, I mean, I think it's going to be fairly obvious what kind of company you're dealing with. And then if you get past that point, then probably I would look at the numbers, of course.
The item 19.
Yeah. And then I would look at the list of owners and ex-owners that they shouldn't be including with the FDD.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we look at the legal, any legal issues.
Mhm.
Are there franchisors out there who don't have any legal issues? Would that be a
Well,
rare?
when I purchased mine, I actually that was one of the first things I looked at. It wasn't called the FDE then; it was called something else. But it's basically the same thing. And I looked at it, and the page was blank, where all their legals were supposed to be. So I thought, well, that's not good. I called them, and they says, well, we don't have any legal things going on right now. So that was a big check in the positive column when I was deciding on which franchise to buy.
Okay, so if I'm looking at 10 franchisors, and it is potential that I could stumble into 10 franchisors that have never had any legal issues.
It's possible, but highly unlikely.
Well, there's 3,800 plus franchisors in the U.S. Have the vast majority of them had legal issues?
I think I would say yes. It's pretty hard to be in business nowadays without having some sort of legal issues. But I can't back that up with any data. That's an assumption on my part.
Okay, so then the second one is I look at the item 19s. And then the third one is I jump into looking at the current as well as ex-owner list.
Yes.
Given that I may end up doing this for 10 different systems, how many on each list do I need to call?
I would say a minimum would be 5. A minimum. If you can do more, you'd be better off. But obviously, the list is provided by the franchisor, so they're probably going to be giving you people who are definitely going to give a good review no matter what. So it wouldn't hurt to call a few others that are not on the list, if you can find them. I think that would be a good idea.
Okay. Then this has been about the FDD, which is in a sense a very legal document. When do I bring a lawyer in? I mean, I've got 10. I'm looking at 10 systems, and I don't necessarily want to talk to a lawyer on all 10.
Right.
I want to weed them out as fast as possible. So
I would say once you get down to the point, if you can't find one and you're undecided, I wouldn't give him more than probably around 3, because otherwise it's going to cost you. He's going to have to plow through every one of these FDDs and make a recommendation. In my case, I was pretty much set on Maid, and I didn't need to delve any further.
But the difference is that when you decided on Maid, you were buying a franchise that you would grow into tremendous
right
results.
Right.
Whereas I'm looking to buy that.
Yes. So,
All right.
So, well, you've got to have the franchisor that you're going to be acquainted with a currently running franchise the same kind of vetting needs to be done, whether it's new or already existing for the franchisor and the franchisee.
So with the new versus the existing is, as we've talked about before, on a new, they can't cook the books.
Right.
On an
There's no books to cook.
So
Now the franchisor can, and I would make the assumption that most of them do a little bit exaggerate the numbers.
which is why you take the item 19 with a grain of salt.
Exactly.
All right. This has been an enlightening pillar with you, Ray. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's always fun.
It is.
Well, you'll find the FDD is really like reading the phone book sometimes. So stay tuned to Pillars of Franchising as we teach you the ins and outs and quick ways to get through an incredibly enormous dry read. With that, we'd like to thank you for joining us on the show today. And thank you to our guest, Courtney Harmon of the Driveway Company and Softroc, all a part of Stellar Services Brands. So excited to have her on the show. Can't wait to start sharing the information that she's provided. As always, we'd like to say thank you. We appreciate you, Ray Pillar, and producers Fred McMurray and Elizabeth Denham. Best of luck to Jerry Akers and Andrea Mundy, who are off to IFA in Las Vegas. We're looking forward to getting lots of pictures and videos and stories to share with you all. And we're sending well wishes to Karen Kimsey-Sword, who is out sick. We're thinking of you, Karen. Hurry up. You got to get back here. And with that, I am Kristin Selmeczy, and together we are your resource for franchising success. This has been another episode of Pillars of Franchising, and the dream starts here. Have a great week.
Franchising.